other thing that kind of hurt me later was he had come home, I guess, because, you know, this is Del Mar and my son is half black, and he had come home and said some kids were teasing him because his hair was nappy, you know, and that just like broke me. That made me think of why were there no black people in my school? Why is there no black people in this district? And again, you know, and as a white person, I can't tell him how he feels, right? I can't tell him how he feels. I can explain to them that those people are nobodies, you know, and to make themselves feel better, you know, they're teasing him. I can tell him the psychology of it, but that was the first time I've seen it from someone else's perspective, you know, and I was really, and it happened again, you know, and my son, mind you, he doesn't understand the concept of race. So that really just kind of drove home what kind of, the areas seem nice, the people seem nice, unless you're different. And
how old was he when that happened?
He was about 8.
So you and I have multiple things in common, and so do your son and I. As an adult, I'm able to pinpoint the moment that I realized that I was black. And it was when I was in Catholic grade school. I was older than 8. I was probably 11. And I was the only black kid in the class.
Yeah.
They were asking me what's wrong with my hair. Up to that point, I didn't know anything was wrong with my hair.
Yeah, there is nothing wrong with your hair.
Right. So, but when I look back, that was the moment that I realized that I was black. And if you ask your son today, if he's ever given that any thought, you'll probably be able to trace it back to when people were asking him about his physical features when he never paid any attention to his physical features. And I was going to ask you what life was like for this little half black, half white boy living in the area that you lived in, because I know the area that you live in, not as well as you. And I was also going to ask you, did anyone ever say anything to you about your little half and half boy?
The thing with Andrew is he's white passing. So besides his hair, he has freckles like me. I have blue eyes. His eyes are completely black. You cannot even see the pupil in his eyes, and he thinks that's really cool. But besides that, he's white passing. So the thing is that was very confusing for me is, first of all, I had no awareness. You know, and second of all, I don't think he had awareness, like you said, until then, but he passed, and no one ever thought his hair was loose curled until he started getting into his teen years. His hair was just really loose curled. He has freckles. And we would actually, one time, I made the mistake of hanging out with some of the carnival people at the fair, because my friend's like, let's go hang out with the carnies. And I'm like, I don't know, they're kind of a dicey bunch. And she's like, no, let's go. And Andrew was with us, and the guy started using the N-word, and he was so mad and so venomous when he was using it that he was shaking. And I looked down at Andrew, and Andrew looked up at me, and I said, we have to go right now. And I left, and he's like, that was scary. Your friend Grizzly is scary. I said, I know, he's scary. I don't think my son knew it wasn't scary because of the word, but it was the venom that this guy spoke with that terrified him, you know. And then my son, he's like, what is that word? I'm like, you don't need to know that word. I didn't even explain anything. He was only 3 or 4, you know. I made a lot of mistakes, you know, as far as his identity went. Since his father never came around, since he never saw that side of the family, since he grew up in North County, he was never even exposed to a different culture or ethnicity besides Hispanic. But when his hair started to get more than curly, I don't know if you ever heard of this place, and you're probably gonna laugh at me, but there's a barber shop in Oceanside, and it was called Unisex House of Style. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
So it was an all black barber shop. So the only way that I knew to take him around people that would know about his hair was to take him, because, you know, at that point I was still dating Marines. They went to Unisex House of Style, and I would hang out with them there. So I knew the barbers, nice, friendly guys. They knew what they were doing. So I would take him to Unisex House of Style, and they'd be like, just leave the boy here. We got him. We got this. So they would teach him about his hair. They would cut his hair. He'd have fun at the barber shop. You know what the barber shops used to be like, right? I don't know whether they're still like that, but he had a good time, and he was able to laugh and joke with the guys. And so, I mean, that was really the only experience that I ever gave him as far as that went, you know, and he had a good time. I could actually leave him at this barber shop for like 2 hours and come back, and he'd still be sitting there in the chair talking away to the guys.
Yeah, nothing has changed when you talk about culture. Barbershops are a pretty important part of Black American culture to this day. Nothing has changed. People are younger, but you know, when I was growing up, my grandfather would leave the house and go to the barbershop and stay there all day. He didn't need a haircut.
Yeah.
He'd play checkers all day and talk shit all day.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm sorry. I know you guys aren't babysitters. There's like, no, he can stay here.
Right, exactly.
He can stay here he's a well-behaved boy. He could stay here all day. You know what I mean? And they talked about, you know, soldiers and this and that and Marines, and he loved all that talk. So he sat there all day, but that's where I would take him. And I felt like he would come bouncing out of there with, you know, new confidence and new pride. And you know what I mean? It wasn't like those little snotty kids in Del Mar. You know what I mean? I'm like, see, I told you everything's cool. And he's like, yeah. You know, like he was full of himself when he came out of there. So I was happy about that.